MMAfighting.com, and I'm joined by none other than John Kavanagh here at the Bellator Dublin press conference. John, this one feels a lot bigger than the last one to me. Like, I mean, I don't know what it is. I think there's a lot more competitive fights, and obviously MVP, Benson Henderson, some big names. Was that always the plan, to kick it up another level for the second event?
Yeah, I think they probably wanted to test the waters a little bit, and I just remember when I was watching the famous walkout when Peter was walking out, and I kind of glanced around at all the Bellator heads, and they were all just like nudging each other, and they just had never seen anything like this. And these are, how would you say, hardened promoters. Have done over 200 events, travel the world week in, week out, and they just couldn't get over that audience. So I said, okay, guys, if you're coming back in September, it's got to go to a new level, and they delivered.
I feel like the addition of Benson Henderson, that makes it very important for the likes of Peter Kiely, Ryan Scope, Paul Redmond, all these guys, that as soon as this kind of this European thing launched, it was all about, let's get these elite Europeans against the elite Americans. Do you feel like that's the kind of gateway that's being opened here, with Benson being on the card as well as these pivotal European lightweight fights?
Yeah, I think, like you said, with Benson being on the card, I think it's going to be a huge American interest. So this is a real opportunity for the likes of Redzer and these guys to get a massive following abroad, so that they aren't just, when I say just, when they aren't just kept for the European circuit, that they are brought over to these big events like I have with Pedro now in the tournament in September. So, the guys are doing great fighting on the European circuit, but at the end of the day, America is the mecca for professional MMA if you really want to get to the top levels. So let's get the Americans watching to see the Benson Henderson fight, and then watch all of these guys go out and do their thing, and hopefully get more guys fighting in the States.
Pedro is an amazing story. His run with Bellator has been amazing, and it's somehow flown under the radar. I feel like it could be a lot more hyped, the 3-0 run. How far do you think he can go in this featherweight tournament? Because a lot of people see him as an underdog, especially the Irish and the UK people, based on his performances so far.
Yeah, it's funny. He kind of reminds me of Artem a little bit. Even his first fight, like, he was given a late-ish notice fight on his first fight in the UK. I think it was a Bellator card, when he fought the BAMMA world champion. And, to be honest, I think the Bellator guys, when I suggested Pedro, they were kind of, okay, well, let's make, can't think of the guy's name. Daniel, who did he fight? It's gone out of my head. You know who I'm talking about. And he was 10-1 at the time. It was actually very similar, because when Artem fought Dave Hill, Artem was 0-1 and Dave Hill was 10-1. Now, it wasn't quite that much of a on paper mismatch, but it was something similar. I think the Bellator guys were thinking, right, this will make our guy look great. He's the BAMMA world champion. Pedro goes in and did very well. He beat him. And then the next fight, not as competitive, if I'm being honest about it. But he went out and he beat him fast. But then this fight, I think this fight really shocked a lot of people. Campos has been in with them all. He's had great fights with who Red's fighting, Grits, and he's been shown to be very durable, take big shots, give big shots, go for 3 rounds. And Pedro went out and just ran him over. I mean, it wasn't even close. And Pedro is a very exciting prospect. He's a great guy in the gym. Everybody loves him. And he's kind of my new Artem of just line him up. I don't care who it is. I don't care what weight class it is. And he could be a real spoiler in this tournament of big names. I think his first fight is an ideal matchup. Cecilia is I couldn't have picked out of 16 anyone better. And then he get one more in. I think it's Hawaii in December, so we better win this fight. I want to go to Hawaii for Christmas. We'll see.
I know you're very involved with all these guys' camps, but the puzzle of MVP and Richard Kiely, and I know you're going to be working with Dave Roach probably a lot on this fight. Is that an interesting one for you? Because he's a guy that obviously has been figured out now once by Lima, but only the highest of the food chain. And then you have Kiely coming in. He's a bit of an unknown in terms of his striking to the international audiences. Is that exciting for you?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting if you think about it for a bit. So, like, MVP doesn't employ a grappling game, so it's pretty much going to be a kickboxing match. Now, what style of striking does MVP have? Well, he comes from sport karate. He's points fighting, sport karate, and there's only a handful of people who do that. He does it very, very well. Whereas Richard Kiely's background, sport karate, points fighting. So he's actually in a bit of a unique position to have seen that style many, many times and not be shocked by it. The guy moves in such a way that Richard has seen for over a decade. Is he listening?
He is listening now, yes.
So, although it is been, I think a lot of people are seen as a massive underdog. Even if against, if you put MVP against somebody with 20 fights, 25 fights, 30 fights, the real question would be, are they able to deal with this unusual movement MVP has, this sport karate background, which the ultimate cheetah, you know, he did so well with his UFC run. And actually, Richard, with a lot less MMA fights, has a similar length of time in that world, and it's going to be a kickboxing fight. So it's a very interesting matchup.
As soon as they announced Benson and Miles, my mind went straight to James Gallagher going, another main event? He's not going to be happy about this. You think he's going to be displeased by this news?
I don't think at all. I think it's going to only draw more international attention. The national attention will be there for James anyway. The arena will be sold out. The walkout will be incredible. We're gonna have all those stories. But the Benson and Miles fight, I think, brings an international flavour to it that I believed after the audience's performance in February, they've earned and deserved.
Finally, I have to ask you about this. I'm getting inundated by emails from Brave CF, and they're telling me that the potential fight between Artem Lobov and Amir Kahn will be negotiated over the next few days. This must be even wild for you. I mean, Paulie was wild, and now this. It's like, I mean, give me your take on that if you can.
As they say, what a time to be alive. Yeah, I'm close with the Hawk Shade and His Highness. And when I was talking with Artem about this fight, I said, would the bare knuckle let you do this? And we were having a bit of a chat, and I said, he was actually on the pads with David Jones. And I went up to my office and I messaged Shade and I said, what do you guys think about this as a fight in on the big November card you guys do? And he was like, yeah, I'll do that. He goes, now, what's the Amir will only do boxing. I was like, oh no, I knew that. He's not going to do bare knuckle on Artem. Yeah, I said, can you do one kick around? But I said, no, yeah, pure boxing, but maybe boxing in a cage. Maybe that's something unusual. You know, you can do what you want in Bahrain, like, you know.
So what a story it's been for Artem, right? Like, he's completely reinvented himself. I know you weren't a massive fan of bare knuckle and stuff, but the audience he's brought to it, like, this guy's a huge commodity, right?
I'm delighted for Artem. You know, I'm saying Pedro is the new Artem. I probably have a bit more control over Pedro than I did Artem. Artem always came to me on a Wednesday, I'm fighting on Saturday night in Ukraine against a heavyweight guy. He was like, Artem. But Pedro lets me pick from. But yeah, for Artem, of almost anyone I've coached, he really, of a team of really tough guys, he really has gone the hardest way about this as he could have. And for him to finally get that break, he didn't, you know, his run to UFC was okay, but it didn't quite go as it might have. And then just this happened, and he had this incredible contest with Jeffrey Knight. Am I saying that wrong? His first fight, Jason Knight. So
I'm terrible with the names today, am I?
You're the expert. You're the expert. And then to get the Paulie fight, I thought that was bizarre that he got that. And then I was watching that in my hotel room at 5 a.m. screaming and people banging on the wall next to me. You know, just absolutely brilliant. Bit of a Cinderella Man type story. And now if we could get this Amir fight, which is that's why they're flying him in. They're flying him into London. They're flying in Amir. And let's see if we can do a deal.
Finally, it's nearly guaranteed that this is a sellout at this point, right? Like, I mean, last time I was the one going, this isn't going to sell out. And then, of course, I had to eat my words. Yeah, and then, but this one feels like it's a bigger card. There seems to be a bigger buzz about it. Like, is it nearly a guarantee at this stage?
Yeah, and it's a great time of the year. You know, September, people are kind of getting back to school and back to reality and looking for something to do. I know in their opening weekend of sales, they did double what they did in their opening weekend in February. I think it's at about half capacity already, and they've really only started the machine today. We'll do another press conference in September probably, and there's still some big fights to be announced. Still some big fights.
Tell us.
Well, one is I did say it earlier. I wasn't supposed to, so I may as well say it again. Ilias the Blade Bouliad, and that is somebody. If you're,
I heard a lot of your guys talking about him.
Everybody talks about him. Everybody talks about him. Even like the Dutch are kind of famously. I'll say this carefully. Famously self-confident, I'd say, / arrogant about their own gyms, and if you don't train here, you're terrible. Everybody, even there, says Ilias, oof. And he's making his debut, his MMA debut. He's very young, he's 22 or something like that, with 170 fights. And now he's come over to MMA. He's been training with me on and off for over a year now. His grappling is coming up fast, great attitude, but his striking is like. On his Bellator debut, he's arguably the best striker in Bellator. Wow.
Especially with that card, that's really impressive.
Yes.
But John, thanks very much. That was great. I'm not going to shake your hand. I'm a bit sweaty.
We'll pound it.
Thanks very much.